From the Homes for Heroes studio in Minneapolis, Minnesota, you are tuned in to Real Talk with Homes for Heroes. Here are your hosts, Bob Stanky and Seth Jessica.
Hello, everyone. I am Seth Jessica, and that is Bob Stanky. How you doing, Bob?
Good, Seth. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I probably caught you off. I caught you off guard there. Maybe a little bit of surprise.
I was ready.
For a season and a half here, I have been doing this little formal intro. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Homes for Heroes. I am Seth Jessica. I've been doing this very formal introduction, right? And I'm just like now realizing that Katrina Hansen, our amazing colleague, took the time to record this amazing intro, and then I have to just repeat it. I don't know. It's kind of a redundant intro, so.
Yeah, no, it sounds. I really love the intro to the podcast, by the way.
It's amazing. Katrina did
really good.
Excellent job. So, welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Homes for Heroes. Of course, I am Seth Jessica and Bob Stanky, and that's Bob Stanky, as I've already stated. But, Bob, how you doing? What's going on? What's new?
Good. It's been a really good week. It's been very productive. I've gotten a lot of stuff done.
Yeah. Another week of quarantine.
Settling into a routine of quarantine. So, the governor here in Minnesota extended our shelter in place a little bit longer this week. So, we'll just continue to button down and, we'll be all right.
I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm settled into my comfort zone. I don't know. It's getting a little bit hard for me to distinguish the days from each other because they all kind of are the same, kind of like Groundhog's Day. I wake up and take a shower, brush my teeth, and I just mosey on into the other room and I start working, and then I eat my frozen meals because I stocked up for 2 weeks, so I had to buy everything frozen. So I cook my frozen meals. I watch a little bit of the news and watch whatever So I'm gonna start getting into Tiger King this weekend, I think. So
okay. Yeah, I gotta check that out yet.
I'm gonna break up the monotony and get into Tiger King. But yeah, everything is. I'm pretty comfortable with everything. Knocking out a lot of content. If you're tuning in on your favorite podcast directory for this episode, go check out the Homes for Heroes YouTube channel because we have a lot of content going out. You checked it out.
It's blowing up.
Yes.
We're getting lots of views and subscribers and
So that's what I'm doing with my free time. And we're also recording these great episodes of Real Talk with Homes for Heroes. And again, I'm really grateful to have you back on the show and bringing your so vibrant personality and your great insight and knowledge. And we're going through this month, April, and we're definitely kind of keeping a pulse, monitoring the pulse of what's going on with the COVID-19 situation and what's going on with the pandemic. Maybe it'll go longer than April, but we definitely dedicated the month of April to creating podcasts or creating real talk shows dedicated to helping our audience navigate and get through these challenging times. And we did a great episode last week on digital marketing tactics that you can use to make sure that your business is moving along, you're not really skipping a beat, and how you're connecting with customers and your audience. So that was last week. And then today we're going to talk about adapting your 2020 business plan to the pandemic. So I know I'm not a part of these, higher up meetings at Homes for Heroes. We definitely have our department meetings, end of the year, beginning of the year, talk about what our big initiatives are for each year. But you sit down with leadership at Homes for Heroes, and in some sorts, I know Homes for Heroes doesn't put together a formal business plan, but you go over everything that goes into a business plan. You definitely bring the MarTech conversation to the table. Everybody kind of goes through, what are the big goals, what are the big initiatives for this year, and I know that you even look at a SWOT analysis, right? You look at potential opportunities, potential threats to make sure that we're looking at the right things to make sure that we're navigating through some of those external forces wisely. So I know that you're a part of that every year, and it's an important thing to do, right? I know that our real estate agents, mortgage lenders, they probably put somewhat together a pseudo business plan together each year, right? And they're looking at what they're going to accomplish this year, how they're going to grow, etc., if they're going to build a team. And we all went through that practice, whether it's, October, November, December, or even if we're late to the game, we did it in January, right? And don't let me speak for Homes for Heroes, but nobody had COVID-19 pandemic on their business plan.
No. No. This one, I mean, we knew that something was going on, but we didn't even know how serious it was the first week of March. I mean, we had Success Camp, that I guess it was the first full week of March, down in San Antonio. And even then, like, I think back to like, even just 1 month ago today, we're like, yeah, we're going to go down to San Antonio. And everybody was. There were conferences going on, and everybody's kind of doing their thing. And then literally it was like the 11th or 12th of March. I think it became really real for me, like when sports stopped. When the NBA canceled play and stopped a game before it even started, like a couple of minutes before it started, like that was like, wow, okay, ooh, this is crazy. So yeah, even just 1 month ago today, March 10th, we still didn't quite know what this was going to be. Right. And so much has happened in 4 weeks. It's just been a whirlwind. So yeah, nobody had this. And I know we're going to talk about SWAT at some point in this conversation, and I have some interesting Homes for Heroes perspective on SWAT. So when we talk about that yet, but we did not see this coming.
Yeah, nobody saw it coming. So we all built out our business plans. We all built out our goals, our initiatives, and nobody took into account the disruption that we would see with quarantining and basically the 16 million people that are unemployed right now. The just tremendous volatility in the stock market. None of us really put this into our business plan. And so we're all kind of forced, and I know that we've done it at Homes for Heroes, is we've been forced to adjust and adapt our business plan and what we're going to focus on and how we're going to grow and how we're going to navigate these challenging times. And so we're going to take a little bit of your experience with going through that process and through our shared knowledge of how we can help our audience look at this. And I really, we broke it down into 4 different talking points. One is, looking at your mission and your vision, and then looking at the SWOT, so the landscape of what's going on, and then also the blanking here, budgeting expenses, and then also adjusting and adapting your goals to everything to all that information. You get kind of take a look at the entire landscape, internally, externally, and then you kind of synthesize, bring that information together, and you say, okay, what makes sense for me to focus on this year, and what can I reasonably accomplish to make sure that my business is still growing, that it's still maintaining through these challenging times. So let's start off with mission and vision. Now, I brought this up because there is a conflicting perspective, and I'm interested to hear what your perspective is on this. So I believe that, a mission and a vision does not change. That always stays steady, right? For example, our mission at Homes for Heroes is to provide extraordinary savings to those who provide extraordinary services to our community. That will never change. Whether there's a pandemic, whether there's an economic crisis, that will never change. Now, there might be some businesses, that might change, but as a real estate agent or a mortgage lender, you're still looking to provide those extraordinary services to home buyers, home sellers, refinance, or people who are refinancing. There'll be some people out there who say you need to kind of really evaluate everything that you're doing as a business. I think my personal opinion, mission and vision stays the same because that's the foundation of why you started your business. And I don't think that you really can stray from that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, nothing with Homes for Heroes in terms of our mission and vision, has changed. We still recognize what we have to do to meet those, aspirational milestones in our business. It's just the one layer after that. It was the goals. The goals were the only thing that really had to change. But our mission remains true. That will not change. I mean, most companies and businesses out there right now, none of them have changed their mission or their vision, really. They've changed some of their operations. They've changed some of their yearly goals, but they certainly haven't, General Motors isn't going to stop having the mission of building high quality cars for us to drive. Like, they've changed their operations. They're helping make ventilators, right? Yep. So, it has nothing to do with anything at what I consider the 50,000 foot level of business. What's changed has been the 10 to 20,000 level and the runway. That's what's changed.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely. So I don't think we really need to unpack that too much, because I think that's, for our audience, and especially for I shouldn't say especially, but certainly for us at Homes for Heroes, we're not looking to adjust our mission or vision. And so I don't really want to unpack that too much. I do want to call out, though, real quick. This is the interesting part of recording at your home. So you have this really great background noise of birds chirping outside your window. I have this really charming background noise of somebody pounding on the wall next door. So.
I heard that. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know if it was just me. It was in my head, because I have there's a lot of stuff going on up here. So I was like, is that in my head, or am I really? I didn't know if someone was trapped in there.
There's
nobody trapped behind the wall, is there?
No, absolutely not. This is going out on social. I don't need anybody coming in and bringing their dirty hands into my apartment, searching through my walls for.
I was trying to decipher if it was Morse code. I was. Yeah, it had a pattern to it.
Yeah, this is the very awkward atmosphere of recording from your house, but we're dealing with it. It is what it is. And hey, like we said in our last episode of Real Talk with Homes for Heroes, nobody is if you're looking for perfection, now is not the time that you're going to find.
You're not going to get it here.
All right, so now let's talk about SWAT. Now I know that you have an interesting perspective, and I think this is extremely important, right? Because I remember going through SWOT analysis in school, and I found SWOT was more like of a tedious process, right? I found more interest and value into kind of going into a blue ocean strategy. I don't want to unpack that, but SWOT can kind of seem mundane and can seem like a very tedious process. But now is a time where you kind of realize, wow, how important is a SWOT analysis? Because these are the times that okay, so Homes for Heroes created a SWOT analysis.
Yep.
The pandemic wasn't in there. Okay, so fair enough. But you could say it was a waste of time.
Well, so actually, this is really interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday when I knew we were going to be talking about this today. So in our SWOT, under threats, we have a line item that says natural disaster. So we have that in there primarily because we think of hurricanes having an impact on our business, right? If a hurricane comes, and if we have another Katrina or I can't remember one of the latest ones that hit the East Coast, but that type of natural disaster, or the tornadoes down in Tennessee, right? That happened a few months ago. Those disrupt real estate. Those disrupt what we're doing in Homes for Heroes. We have wonderful affiliates down in those areas. We have heroes everywhere, right, in the country. So we have heroes down there. So natural disasters affect our operations. So we actually, in our SWOT, have a line for natural disasters. Now, what's interesting is when we reviewed the SWOT last fall, it came up because we went through every line item in the SWOT and we evaluated whether it needed to be there or if it changed or do we keep it or enhance it or whatever. And we certainly didn't gloss over it. Mm-hmm. We acknowledged it. We
Sure.
acknowledged that we need to be ready for when things like that happen. But to the point you just made, we did not talk about a pandemic. Now, we reviewed our SWOT last October, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's when we did our yearly kind of review of the industry and review of the business.
Yep.
Was in October. So we looked so that was 6 months ago, mm-hmm. right? 7 months ago. And this wasn't even on the radar. You could argue maybe the government knew something was, I don't know. I have no idea.
Sure.
But nobody saw this coming. Mm-hmm. And so we acknowledged the line item. But again, a natural disaster is something you don't have much control over. So how much planning you can do around it is really, very difficult. There's a lot of disaster recovery stuff that you can plan for, right? Like how are our records and computer equipment stored in case our building were to flood or, things like that. Like there's disaster recovery, but you can't plan for a hurricane. Mm-hmm. You can't plan for a massive tornado or an earthquake or, holy smokes, a pandemic that literally is affecting the entire world. Now let's just focus on the U.S. because that's where our business is located and where we do business, but our whole country.
Yep.
So it's a whole different type of natural disaster, so to speak, or act of God is what a lot of corporations call it in legal terms. Mm-hmm. We could have never expected this, but we did have it on there. Like technically we had a line item. I think what this is going to do is it's going to make businesses think a little bit about maybe not glossing over that line.
Yes.
I know insurance companies, like obviously they're very cognizant of this. Places that have major manufacturing operations, they think about natural disasters where they're located. But we're very much a service business.
Yep.
And this makes us I believe, rethink like, because we did a really good job. I think, all things considered, we mobilized really quickly, mm-hmm. right? So, and we didn't necessarily have a plan. We didn't have a playbook. And I love the concept of having a playbook for all these different scenarios. We didn't have a playbook for this. We did really, really well, though. We mobilized well. We distributed our team, mm-hmm. remotely. We did it very quickly.
Yep.
But I think what this will make us do, and should make every business do, and all real estate agents out there, is have a playbook, even
Yep.
if it's a page. Have it documented what you're going to do in the event of natural disaster, pandemic. Especially now's a good time to rethink that because it may be a while before we're completely out of the woods with this one. And so I think there's still ways we can think about how this occurs. So let's say, for example, we shorten the curve, or I forget what shorten the curve. Flatten the curve. So we flatten the curve, right?
I've been watching too much of the news.
Yes, you have. So let's just play the hypothetical game here, okay? Let's just for a second.
Sure.
So we flatten the curve. We roll into summer. Baseball comes back. We're mm-hmm. going to outdoor music theaters. We're getting back into it, right?
Yep.
Somewhat. We've opened the economy, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So then fall comes. And for some odd reason, things start cropping up again. I think now it would be a wise choice to think about how that affects your business, because now it should be a line item on your SWOT if it wasn't before, mm-hmm. and have a playbook ready for these things just in case.
Yep, absolutely.
Just in case.
And I think that, so I did a little bit of thinking about this for this episode, and I think that there are people who probably do go through the process of creating a SWOT analysis, and like Homes for Heroes did in October. Now is a good time to revisit that, right? Add that to your add this as a line item to your SWOT analysis. I also think that if you have not ever gone through the process of creating a SWOT analysis, now is a great time to actually go through it, because you can actually start to look at, you're experiencing what it's like right now, right? So mm-hmm. you're actually living through it. And Just so for anybody who's unfamiliar with a SWOT analysis, let me just give you a quick explanation of it. So SWOT, strengths and weaknesses, is a SW, and that is a internal evaluation of your business. And then you have the opportunities and threats, which are the external analysis of your industry. And you kind of bring that in, you kind of create a line item under each one. So you evaluate your strengths, you evaluate your weaknesses, you evaluate the industry and the market's opportunities and threats, and you list those line by line. And it kind of gives you this, it forces you to look through how you can leverage your strengths, how you need to grow your weaknesses, or I should say improve or mitigate your weaknesses, take advantage of opportunities, and also be aware of potential threats. And obviously the pandemic would be under a threat to your business. But I did a little bit of looking at this and just kind of thinking about, if I was to create a SWOT analysis for my business right now, things that you could potentially include. So if you've never done a SWOT analysis, you could certainly look at your equity to debt ratio. So if you are a very strong financial business, that's a huge strength right now, right? I mean, cash is king right now, and the less debt that you have, that is going to be a strength. Flexible expense schedule. If you don't have, a lot of fixed expenses, that is a huge strength right now. If you have a large sphere of influence, if you have experience going through a financial downturn before. Bob, you've gone through this in 2008, 2009. You kind of know how, at least you're familiar with how to navigate challenging times. And if you were part of the housing crisis back then, that's a huge strength that I would be identifying right now, because that's something that you can definitely provide your clients and say that you have experience and you have a knowledge about what it's like to go through these times. And, education. Weaknesses, little social media presence. So maybe you don't have a big presence on social media. Identify that as a weakness. Now's the time to be honest with yourself. Now's not the time to kind of be shy or be timid about it. Identify your weaknesses and be honest and be truthful, because you can really start to look at those. So social media presence is going to be really big and really important right now, and probably for at least the next year, as we are communicating more virtually. So identifying little social media presence. Again, if you have a poor equity to debt ratio, you might want to look at that and just be cognizant of it. I mean, you never want to be in that kind of situation, but being aware of that, you really need to be honest with yourself. Homeschooling. Hey, Bob, you know that homeschooling is demanding more of your time, and that does impact your business. And that is, it's a weakness, right? It's not necessarily, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is what it is. And you need to understand that does impact your business. And then maybe you have little experience negotiating real estate during challenging times. But now is the time that you can really start to develop and grow in those. And then opportunities. Do you specialize in a specific need, or is there a specific need in your community? You talked about this last episode, Bob. If there is a specific need that you can identify in your community, how can you bring your specialties to maybe help serve that? Very selfless or self-promoting plug, whatever you want to call it. Do you serve a specific niche? Homes for Heroes is serving a huge opportunity, and I don't want to say that we are capitalizing on, crisis. We're not. But we do serve a very specific niche, which is healthcare workers, first responders, military. This is a huge opportunity for anybody who is in real estate right now, because those people need help and they need our support. The Homes for Heroes mission, the support that we provide just opens those doors. So that's a huge opportunity. One opportunity that I'm going to throw out there: decrease in inventory in ad inventory and ad costs. So you can definitely take advantage of more or cheaper advertising on platforms like Facebook and Google. Real quick, I'm just going to go over threats. A second wave of this coronavirus outbreak. Be aware of that. It could happen again this fall, this spring, like you talked about. Just because we we flatten the curve and we get on the other side of this, say June, July, and we kind of go back to, I don't know if business as normal is going to be the right term right now, but you get the idea. There could be a second wave that comes back, and we could experience more of this. And how are you going to prepare yourself for that? And then prolonged market volatility. Now, I would say that I'm feeling pretty good about our economy recovering once we kind of get back to a business as usual, because this was really a health crisis that created an economic crisis. And I think, just like the experts say, once you have the virus under control and you have it maintained and you have antibodies and you have, antidotes to combat that virus, things can get back to normal and people will go back to being employed and the housing market will recover. So I do think that we'll have a strong recovery. That's my personal opinion. But until we get back to a business as usual, how are you going to deal with the continued market volatility? So I just wanted to throw those out there. That might not be right for every business. That identifying those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I just wanted to give some examples to give you context into things that you can look at right now if you've never built out a SWOT analysis. So you can kind of say, here's the current situation that I'm in. Here's where my business is at. Here's my strengths, weaknesses. Here's what the current opportunities and threats are in the real estate industry. And how can I build out that SWOT analysis to give me that 360-degree perspective of what's going on. So I just really talked a lot.
No, that was good though. It's an important thing. It's sometimes I have to admit, every time I think about like either creating a SWOT or reviewing a SWOT, at first I kind of get like, I just gotta be honest, like, really?
Right.
Like, and then once I get into it, I reinvigorate my thinking around why it's so important.
Yep.
And why you should have it, and it really my only tip would be to be completely honest with yourself when you're creating it. And your SWOT is very much a web. The various things are interlinked between each other. You can have a strength that matches with an opportunity in the market externally. You definitely can have a strength that is somewhat tied to a weakness, and so then you make decisions around whether or not you're going to address that weakness through your strengths. So once you start tying these things together, they can give you a sense of direction on where you need to go with your business or things you can do. So it is a really important document to put together.
I absolutely agree. And I think it really lends nicely into our third talking point, which is adjusting budget and expenses. Because once you've gone through that SWOT analysis, you kind of understand where your strengths are, where you need to improve your weaknesses, and then you can figure out what the opportunities and threats are. Then you can start to really kind of understand, okay, I need to get more laser focused in on certain things. So you can adjust, what are the expenses that I need to lose? What are the, how do I reallocate my budget, right? We're all doing that, even personally, right?
Yeah, very much personally, yep.
We know that cash is king, and I am not a financial advisor, so please consult your financial advisor, and I'm not giving anybody financial advice. But right now, everybody is saying, and I'm heeding that advice, don't worry about your debt. I mean, don't take on new debt. Now's not the time to take on new debt. Unless you absolutely need to. But cash is king right now. You should be stockpiling your cash and not taking on new debt or trying to pay down debt. Now, I know that's not how we typically talk. Any financial advisor would say, hey, you need to mitigate your debt. But right now is the time to stockpile cash. And I think that's the same with, business. and personal. It's the same thing. So do you have any advice in how you would approach this, if from a budgeting standpoint, and how you're gonna kind of, I know we talked about evaluating your expenses through your SWOT analysis, but any additional insight or advice how you would put that into play?
Yeah. So my first tip or piece of advice is to first examine your expenses. So the expenses are one thing that you can have a control over. Sometimes you can't control the income that's coming in because it may be very variable. I mean, you can obviously work hard and grind and, try to drive your revenue up, but sometimes there's the unknown there. Expenses are something that you can control. So, examining what's your burn rate. How much money do you spend every month on your business? And then you match that up with how much cash does your business have right now? So how long can you survive? Do you have enough? If it costs $1,000 to run your business, I'm just going to use simple numbers here. $1,000 to run your business every month, and you have $5,000.
Yep.
Okay, you can go 5 months.
Yep.
Right, with what you got. So by taking a quick peek at those expenses and only narrowing it down to the absolute necessary expenses that you need to keep your business running, let's say you can shave off $500. Well, now you just lowered your burn rate down to $500 a month, and you've extended the life of your business. You've doubled the life of your business. If you didn't drive any more revenue at all, you could go 5 more months now. You could go 10 months.
Yep.
And that makes a big difference, because when you look at something like what we're going through right now, the difference between staying in business for 5 more months versus staying in business for 10 more months could be the difference between whether or not your business makes it out of this.
Yep.
So by going through and examining all the expenses and getting rid of the ones that you don't need right now, and then, or negotiating, right, on things that, maybe your lease or something, maybe the office space that you have, maybe they're, right now, because everybody's having a hard time, maybe they're being more flexible on, maybe they're offering a no interest, 3-month leeway on your lease. Well, you won't know unless you call them, right?
Right.
So just examining, getting rid of expenses you don't need, but then at the same time, trying to find services that are going to help you during this time can sometimes also be a good idea, right? So you might be able to eliminate $500 of expenses in a month, let's just say. But let's say you find another service that's like $250, but it's going to help you grow your business during this time. It's a differentiation. It's a marketing operation that offers you a point of differentiation. Maybe it's Homes for Heroes, right? We tend to be a very good service during this time because we serve, like you just said, heroes who are in need of service right now. Yep. So maybe you find a service that, you add a little bit of expense, but you've cut enough where you've extended the life of your business based on the cash you have. So examining expenses, purchasing products and tools that make sense for right now for your business, that's definitely the best place to start. But get deep into your numbers. I know even personally, like the last couple of weeks, definitely taking a lot more time thinking about, the cash that I spend. And I came across a very, very interesting statistic. This working from home is unbelievable on how much money I'm saving on gas in my car.
Right? Yeah.
Literally I looked at January spent on gas and what I spent in March, and it was half. It was less. It was more than half, right? So there's opportunities to save money during this time to keep going. So examine your expenses, purchase products and services that make sense during this time, but overall, just try to decrease your burn rate.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And the only thing I want to add, and you covered everything perfectly. The only one thing that I want to add is similar to your SWOT analysis. When you're evaluating this, I know from experience that this can be very scary, and you can procrastinate with this heavily because it really is a scary thing to really get into your numbers and see the reality of what you're facing. That is scary, and that causes us to procrastinate and not want to do it, and sometimes not kind of gloss over it or not really because we're scared of the truth, right? But trust me, do it. You will thank yourself in the end, because if you really dig into it, if you don't procrastinate and you face it with using 100% honesty and pulling out the truth of your financial situation, you're going to be in such a better situation. Even if it is looking grim, you'll be able to know exactly what you're up against financially. So make sure that you don't procrastinate with that, and make sure that you do it to the with 150% off effort, because it will pay off in the end. All right, so we have just a few more minutes, but we want to get to the fourth talking point, which is really important. Setting and adjusting your goals for your business. So obviously, we all started off with the year, and economy is the strongest we've ever seen the economy. Everything is great. The inventory of houses on the market is so low, and we have this, we're just going to smash it this year. And then this happens, and you can't even show houses anymore because you can't leave your home. So there's all this, things have disrupted our goals and our ambitions. And so now's the time to really reassess that, right? You've gone through your SWOT analysis. You've gone through your financial assessment. You kind of, okay, what can I reasonably accomplish this year? And how am I going to set that? Or what goals do I need to set? And I know at Homes for Heroes, we did a reassessment of this, right? Again, our mission didn't change. Our vision didn't change. We're still headed in the same direction, full force. If we're going at 100% speed before, we're going at 150 percent speed now, because our heroes need us more now than ever. So, but we did have to adjust some of those goals. Like, okay, maybe we want to reallocate some of our ad spend. Maybe we want to reallocate some of the time that we're spending towards some of the other things. But we're still looking to serve heroes, make them aware of Homes for Heroes. So what are your thoughts on readjusting and realigning your goals as a business?
Sorry, my other video froze up there, Seth, but I'm back.
Well, you know what?
I'm still live. So I missed that last part of your question. So you just repeat that.
You know what? I'm just going to put Elsa with a frozen sign over you again.
That was the best part of the last episode.
Yeah, no. So readjusting your goals to the pandemic. Maybe you can take some of the approach that you took with Homes for Heroes and how we readjusted our goals. What advice would you have to, maybe even if you do need to step back or throttle back a little bit, setting reasonable goals? What advice would you give?
Yeah, so we definitely did this at Homes for Heroes. We just looked at, we follow a methodology called Traction, the Entrepreneur Operating System, and it holds us accountable internally to the things that we want to achieve during the year, and we break that down quarterly. And so the first thing we did was we took all of our rocks. That's what Traction refers to them as. Those are essentially goals during a quarter, and we put them all on hold immediately. That was like the first action. And that was because when something like this hits, you need to go into survival mode. You may have plenty of, maybe your business is just absolutely thriving. You got plenty of cash. Even if that's the case, you should put a pause on everything and go slightly into survival mode. Think about, again, going back, looking at your expenses, like reanalyzing all of the little pieces of your business so you can get a grasp on everything, right? So when we did that, it allowed us to really examine and say, okay, well, we know the market's changing, the landscape is changing. So out of all these things we want to get done this year, knowing that this disruption is going to take 1, 2, 3 quarters, we don't know. It's important to readjust your goals, to say, okay, well, with this new norm, with this new kind of forecast in the economy, how does this affect us, right? But I think it also serves as a good mental kind of giving yourself a little bit of a break, right? You could have this huge revenue milestone that you're shooting for, and it's nice to be able to take a step back and say, like, okay, I got to cut myself a little slack here. I'm not going to meet this goal, and that's okay. And so by readjusting, you not only help prepare your business, but you also help prepare yourself mentally a little bit to, like, okay, I have a new goal. Now this is my goal. And still set it out, still be aggressive. And we talked about goal setting last quarter when we were talking about building a business plan.
Yep.
And I remember, if you go back to that podcast episode, I talked about setting very specific numbers to these different, the 1, 2, 3 business plan, or 1, 3, 5. And you can still do that. You can still be aggressive in your goals, and you can still really, grind hard and achieve those things, but just level setting those goals based on the things that are out of your control. That's the most important thing.
So I think maybe like a good way to conceptualize that is if you had a goal of having X amount of closings, right? Well, all of a sudden you know that closing, or the housing market is, in many markets, is halted, if not almost come to a complete standstill. So those goals might not be reasonable. But that doesn't mean, to your point, you can't continue going 150% effort and grinding every single day. But maybe that looks like, maybe I'm going to start building my connections. Maybe I'm going to start looking at building more relationships. Maybe some of it is I have a great CRM tool, but I'm not putting it to, I'm not using it to its full potential. So you can start readjusting your goals to say, okay, maybe I can't serve as many clients as I wanted to do this year. And that's out of your control. Don't beat yourself up over it. But what can you do now and say, I need to reset my goals to make sure that I can, they are within my control, and it's still going to go towards growing my business. It's just going to be in a different way. So
Seth, did you? This is going to be a weird analogy. Did you play Did you play baseball as a kid? You did, right?
Oh, I was a huge baseball kid. Yeah, that was my sport.
So I remember the coach, my little league coach. When you played the outfield, the second the ball was hit, the first thing you did was you took a step back.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You took a step back. That was the big rule about playing outfield, right? Is
never run in.
And that was never run in. The first thing you did was you took one step back. And what that did was that allowed you to get perspective on where the ball was going, because if you ran forward and then you realized, oh no, the ball's going over my head, it took a lot more energy, and most times not very successful, at running back to try to get the ball, right? Again, maybe a corny analogy, but it's what I think of. Same thing in this case.
Absolutely.
Something was hit our way. We didn't know what to think of it at first. So just take a step back. Just take a step back, reevaluate where things are at. So then you know where to go. You'll get a better perspective on where the ball is going, or in this case, where the economy's going, where your business is going, where your financials are going. By taking that step back, you can realign those goals. I think that's just something to think about as a simplistic way to get through these times.
Absolutely. And if you're a grinder, if you're a hustler, if you're a 10Xer, that's going to be hard, right? Because you're going to be like, no, I go full force. And I think the smartest business people know when they have to take a step back and go 10X or full force in another direction, just so they're not spinning their wheels. And I think now is that time. So, Bob, I know that you have to get to another meeting, and I have to get to another meeting. But you know what? The great thing about this is we got it done in under 60 minutes.
Great. Cool. Awesome.
So I'm going to let you do the outro, Bob. I'm going to trust that you can handle it. But I just want to say, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And please reach out to myself or Bob. Again, our handles will be at the bottom of the screen if you have any questions, if you need any help. We really are people who have that mindset of we live a better life and we have a better career if we are able to serve and help others. So if there's a way that we can help you, we will. If there's a question that we can't answer, we will find the answer for you. So make sure you reach out. And Bob, can you do it?
I can. I'm going to cover all the bases here. You ready?
It's like a kid. I'm having a hard time letting it go, but yeah, man, I'm trusting that you can do it.
Okay, let's start from the top. Seth and I are both on social media. Definitely can find us on Twitter, right? At Seth Jessica, at Bob Stanky. Any questions, reach us to it there. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the Homes for Heroes YouTube channel and don't miss a beat. Subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so that every time a new video is released, you will see it. Number 3, we are on every single podcast directory you can imagine. Just simply go to your favorite podcast player of choice and search for Real Talk with Homes for Heroes, and you will find us there. Subscribe, share with your friends, help us push these messages out. It would be very much appreciated.
I'll give you an A. I won't give you an A+. I'll give you an A. You went above and beyond what I normally do, so you get an A. The only thing that you missed, you would have gotten an A+. You would have gotten an A+++. Make sure that you like this video if you're tuning in on YouTube. That's
for sure. That's right. Like, comment, and subscribe. There you go. Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, awesome. Now we can share doing the outro. So great job, Bob. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you tune in next week. We will be sharing more content to help your business through coronavirus. And we'll see you guys next week.